As a farmer in eastern Kentucky, you'd be surprised how much of my time is spent carrying things. I carry heavy gallons of water out to the pigs while they have their little mama stall with their new babies. I carry hay out to the fields to feed the cattle. Sometimes I carry a sick calf into the house and put it into triage, aka my bathtub. I also carry the weight of maintaining our social media presence and our Instagram so that our followers get to see the life we live on the farm and the things that happen there. But the thing that I carry that I think is the heaviest for me sometimes is that I carry a lot of shame. When I have something that happens on the farm and I try to save an animal but it still goes wrong, or if I have to make a split-second decision when I'm out in the pasture and something happens and it doesn't go according to plan, I feel ashamed of that. I feel ashamed when I get a phone call from animal control saying, "Hey, your pigs are out on the highway having a time. Can you do something about that?" But you'd be surprised that I've learned how to manage that shame from a really interesting source, my goats. Goats are the ultimate sociopaths. They cause chaos and destruction everywhere they go, and they have no shame about it. If you ask any goat farmer, they're going to tell you, the only fence that can hold a goat is the one that can hold water. Take, for example, a loving but dumpy goat named Copper. Now, Copper was a bottle baby. This means that her mama died while she was giving birth, so we had to bring her in and bottle feed her every 2 hours. This made Copper really reliant on us, but she didn't get the chance to get the tiny shred of common sense that the other goats get from their mamas. She relied on me as her adopted mama. And I will tell you, as her adopted mama, I had to pull out her full name a lot of times when she was causing trouble. You parents know exactly what I mean. Now, Copper's full name was Damn It Copper. As in, damn it, Copper, how did you break open the tack room and why did you drink the motor oil? Or, damn it, Copper, how did you get in the water trough? It's 2 feet taller than you are. Or, damn it, Copper, how did you get stuck in the fence again? Now, Rizzo was the matriarch of our herd, and she was this really big, powerful goat who had these horns that went up like this, really formidable, and she was fierce. And every morning, she would lead the goats on a nice path. She'd look around the pastures and think, that's the field that I want for breakfast. And they'd follow her in a single file line all the way out the field. Well, Copper was always in the back of the pack. She was bottom of the herd. She'd mosey about aimlessly, following the rest of the goats, and then get a great idea somewhere along the way that, I think that I'd rather eat in that field over there. So she'd wedge her head through the fence and get stuck. Copper's horns were not big or formidable. She had little curly cues that went back right behind her ears, and then they went to perfect little points at the end, which means it was the exact right shape for her to not try in the bottom rung. She would climb up the fence and then wedge her head through, and it'd hook on the way back out, just like an arrow. Goes in great, really hard to get out. So I'd be doing whatever I'm doing on the farm, and I'd suddenly hear, blah, blah, blah. I'd come running to find out what's going on, and you can bet Copper was stuck in the fence, just hanging there, strangling herself, trying to get out. So I'd have to kind of step over Copper like this, if you've ever wrangled a goat, you know what I'm talking about, and try to pop her horns back out of the fence square. Well, Copper decided in that process that I was the problem. So she starts fighting me as I'm trying to fight her out of the fence, and we just have a huge battle where both of us leave bruised and bloody and tore up by the barbed wire. Now, while all this is happening with Copper, because Copper would do this 3 to 4 times a day. So while this is happening, I'm not posting pictures of Copper stuck in the fence on social media. Instead, I'm thinking, well, nobody wants to see a goat who has a strangulation fetish, so I'm just going to share these pictures of Reba Bacon-Tyre, our sow, and her daughter, Hammy Wynette, and how they're just lounging in a big mud puddle, not causing any trouble at all. So I had a great idea one day. I'm going to fix everything. I cut a piece of river cane about this long, and I got electric tape. and I taped it to Copper's horns crossways so she can't fit through the fence anymore. This is going to solve everything. And you know what? It worked perfectly. Suddenly, Copper's out in the field. She'd try to wedge her head in the fence. It wouldn't fit. So she'd give up and just go eat the pasture. Sometimes she'd still find motor oil. And I decided at that point, I am never going to judge a parent that you see at Disneyland with their kid on one of those leashes because bless their heart, they're raising a Copper. Well, for a whole week, I had peace with Copper. It almost made me remember why I like goats again. But during this time, we had a baby goat that was born, and its name was Taco. And I put a lot of pictures of Taco on our social media feed. But the thing that I didn't share and that I was ashamed about is the reason Taco was in the house living in a basket is because Taco was born underdeveloped. And Taco had to stay wrapped in a heating pad constantly like a little taco because he couldn't regulate his own body temperature. The truth is, I only brought Taco in the house because I knew he was going to die. And when he did, I wanted it to be with a warm space and a full belly. Well, back to Copper. One day I look out in the field, and Rizzo and Copper are headbutting each other. Nobody headbutts Rizzo. So this is something bad. So I watch, and Copper's river cane had worn on the edges to where every time Rizzo would headbutt Copper, it would make a ferocious Copper went from the bottom of the herd up to the top because apparently in goat society, the matriarch is the one with the biggest horns. And Copper had rattlesnake horns, so nobody wanted to mess with her. So suddenly, I've gone from just having this one problem goat to the problem goat leading the 20 other goats on my farm. I had 20 goats going down into the river and getting stuck in the mud. 20 goats trying to eat motor oil. 20 goats just trying to die in the dumbest way possible all day, every day. I didn't share this on my Instagram either. I felt really ashamed. I am a terrible farmer. How can I not control these goats? What is going on? I really had a lot of self-doubt in my own skills. And my problem that I created a whole new problem by trying to fix one. So instead, I just tried to share positive things. And I started to really struggle with this. And how do I call myself a farmer when I can't keep these goats from eating motor oil? And then I really started thinking about it, and on our social media feeds, I feel like I took some solace in the fact that most likely you also, for every one picture of your kid that you have that's great, you have 20 pictures of your kid doing whatever is the kid equivalent of motor oil. And I decided I am no longer going to be ashamed. I'm not going to carry that for me. I'm going to learn from Copper. She's not ashamed. And I am going to start living my life in full color instead of living my life behind the latest Instagram filter. Thank you.